Alright, hello, welcome to Wayfinder, some more content. So today we're going to be looking at the first 5 bosses and a little bit of a guide for them. Starting off with our favorite, the Broodmother Silreth. Now the first thing which I'm showing on the screen here, you'll notice is break power. This is very important for Broodmother Silreth because I think they kind of botched the introduction of this mechanic. You need that to beat her, essentially, in any effective way. So I would highly recommend you bring one of your big two-handed weapons to deal the break damage. You can sort by break power even. If you are just starting out, if you already managed to get Senja, you'll have the Colossus Sword, but more likely you'll have these Typhoon Battle Axes. If you are trying to just kind of grind your way to get Senja, keep doing the Codex Halls until a Deceiver Chest spawns. She'll eventually drop from one of those Mimic type enemies. That's how you get Senja and the Colossus Sword. After that, you'll just get it as a random drop. But for the purposes of our demonstration, we're going to use the Typhoon, assuming you have that. It does have this very good weapon ability, Shatter, which makes the enemy take increased damage. And we're going to dive in here. Now, I do have a high-level character. I can't really do anything to avoid that other than delete my save, which would make it very hard to record videos. For now, I believe save slots are coming out in 1.0, but this video was recorded before. I am, however, do have my world scaling on. I'm on heroic difficulty, and because I did just switch my weapon, I'm also missing a large portion of my echoes. So you'll see a few things that obviously show off the fact that I am higher level, but the baseline strategy should be more or less the same for you as a new player. So here we are. We're just going to wander. All the bosses have these little run-ups. Senja's little punch that I'm doing there, if you do have it, that does an extreme amount of break damage. So that is also going to come in handy in this fight if you have it. You can also, I don't think it heals her originally. You have to upgrade it for that. But her taunt, I believe, is the one that heals her originally, which is the top ability. So we got a nice little cutscene, scary big spider. Very imaginative. There's never been a giant spider in a video game. She will drop down. You'll notice she has little friends. Basically, we're going to beat up on them to build up our momentum. Just try and either dodge, or if you really don't have time to dodge, to hold your block key to keep the damage away from you when she does big leaps and attacks. The attack you really want to watch out for is that one where she rears back. She'll spit silk at you. That will actually paralyze you in place, and it's really annoying. Either if you don't dodge it immediately, just try to step to the side a little, because if you try and dodge through while she's spraying the webs, they will catch you. They don't seem to care about iframes. So mostly we just smack on her. Every time you see your weapon momentum fill up in the bottom right there, you can press the indicated button to do the Sunder attack on her. Beat up these little dudes for a little extra. There's that triangle of silk, where you can see I just stepped to the side. I didn't actually dodge it. Some of her little forward swipes with her legs seem to have a very long hitbox. You don't want to fight too defensively here. Here I'm just using Singe again. And here's her mechanic. She puts on these purple crystals and seems like she's invulnerable. But if you're hitting her with break damage, you will notice her guard break meter is going down at the top there, even though her health is not. And this is where you need a ton of break damage, so I wouldn't try and do this with daggers or even with the guns, really, unless you really have no other options. You can do it eventually, but it will take way longer. Once you guard break her, you basically have a free damage phase. If you do have any abilities to let off that will do damage to her, this is a good time to do it. Or if you want to otherwise have unload weapon abilities on other weapons on her as well. Again, just keep going. She will do this kind of essentially randomly throughout the fight. You just have to break her again. Right now, then eventually she'll jump up to the ceiling. She'll spawn a wave of really weak minions. Then you get these brood hunters. These are more dangerous. Just try and clear them out as much as possible and avoid their attacks. Watch out for these crystals dropping. You want to destroy them as soon as possible so they don't cut down your available area to dodge and deal damage and mess up your stamina and resilience. After 1 or 2 crystals top, she should come back down. Basically continue wailing on her. Try and stay behind her if you can. A lot of her attacks do come from the front, so if you're always behind her, you will basically be safe. That's it, she can turn around dime. We did a guard break without the crystals there, so you can see she's knocked down, ready for some major damage. So I've pulled out my ultimate. Even outside of mechanics, when you guard break an enemy and they have no more yellow bar, they take bonus damage. So it's a good time to unload your biggest guns on them. I blocked that one there. So yeah, you can just block with a two-hander. It's not as good as parrying with daggers or blocking with a sword and shield for counterattacks, but it does work. We got the purple crystals again, so just smack on her until she's guard broken. Probably on this guard break, I'm going to say we're going to kill her based on the amount of health she has left. Again, she'll probably have completely different health in your game because you're much lower than me, and world scaling or party scaling and all that will change things. And just that easily, we have defeated Broodmother Silreth. Hey, we even leveled up. She will usually drop her echo. I should look at it. It probably comes out of this treasure chest, and then I look at it in my footage. So yeah, always make sure to open your treasure chest and pick up everything from it. And yeah, you'll get a Broodmother Silreth Echo. It doesn't really matter what rarity that is. They do the exact same thing. They just take lower capacity at higher rarities. That's a very good early defensive one to have because it will give you a damage shield when your own guard break meter gets depleted, which can help you out with not taking super damage from whatever comes immediately after that. There are better ones later on and better ways to get damage shields, but that's Broodmother Silreth. So next up is the Bloodspawn. So for this one, we'll be bringing out Nis because it does have a DPS check phase, although it's not one you can really necessarily fail. You'll just have to repeat it if you don't get them all the first time. This is very good at quickly dealing a whole pile of DPS. Also, we can show off our dagger skills in this one. Again, the weapon you bring isn't 100% matter. It's quite easy to bring a gun, and that's arguably a way to cheese this guy as well. The Bloodspawn is the boss you get Grendel from, importantly, but probably the easiest one of the you'll see in this entire video. So yeah, I'll explain the DPS phase, but you can bring whatever you want. It just may take a little longer in the fight if you don't pass the DPS check. It's not a complete reset, but it does keep coming back to life essentially with less and less HP each time. So we were wondering here, if you've watched my new player tips guide, you'll know that you can use daggers and shields and everything else to block things you don't think you could, like parrying this and counterattacking. If you're not confident in your parrying skills, or you're using a gun and blocking skills, or you're using a gun, you can just jump over these slams if you time it properly as well. You can also do a roll to iframe through them, though that's the tightest window of all. The dagger parrying does give you a lot of counterattack, letting you just kind of keep the pressure up on the boss and not spending any significant amount of stamina or resilience in the process, as long as you don't miss a parry, of course. The parry window is not terribly tight, like this is not Liza P or whatever. That said, it's not as simple as you might like in Assassin's Creed or even an Arkham game. There's definitely, it's an acquired skill that I'm not actually that good at, if we're being honest. So yeah, you just whittle away on the Bloodspawn. If you got a decent amount of stamina, not that you can really increase stamina too early on in the game, you'll just be able to continuously block or parry your way through it. And again, you don't have to have Nis to use the daggers, but she does come with the slicer dicers, which gives you an early dagger set. Now, you see that one I kind of rolled away from for whatever reason instead of parrying. You can mix in her abilities too. You don't want them all to be, you want your abilities to all be ready when you hit this thing down to 0, but you can use them in the meantime just to whittle down its health bar. Especially if you have the ultimate, that's really, for this, that's really handy to clear out the phase that happens when it hits 0, because it will give you infinite uses of your first ability for a short period, which will let you dash around dealing damage like crazy. So he's about to hit 0 here. You'll see he throws out these 3 little slimes. I'm triggering the ultimate there. Basically burst these down one by one. If you have a team, each person takes one, but we're doing this solo. If you burst them all down, then you only have to fight Bloodspawn one more time here with his very reduced health. If you don't manage to get one, you'll have to cut him down to 0 again while he's doing all this stuff, and then kill the one you missed, essentially, or the two you missed. In this phase, he will jump around. You can continue to parry that attack, or jump over it, or dodge through it, whatever you want to do, or stand outside it shooting with a gun. Just watch out that these exploding slimes will try and roll up on you as well. I believe if you get them to explode on him, they will do damage, but I've never had much luck getting that to happen. Eventually, Bloodspawn will stop hopping from place to place, and he'll just go back to doing the same stuff he was doing in the first round. Again, just watch out for all these extra explosions. Don't stand in the red circles as it goes. Parry him as you will. The one thing with guns, most of the guns you will have at this point in the game have a fairly low damage fall off range, so you may not be able to do your full damage if you're standing outside those big circles. Just like that, though, the blood spawn is done. Easy peasy. So on. Go. I think I'm going to show off the gun thing here in a second. Yeah. So you most likely will either have the Tempest shotgun or the Ransom rifle. Neither of those are the Arc Storm or the Lawn Shot, which are the big sniper rifle sort of ones. But yeah, you can just stand up. With those, just make sure you're not getting snuck up on by exploding slimes and stand back and plink him to death with them, essentially. Bloodspawn will drop his Echo, which adds a big burst of slime when you do a slam attack from the air, which is just you jump in and hold your attack button. You can do that with any weapon. It also slows enemies, so it can be very good for anyone who likes to do that. I like to do that with two-handers a lot. I just jump in and do the slow attack and roll back out. You can do it with guns too, though, as I just showed off there. And that's going to be the Bloodspawn. Alright, so now we're going to do the Trial of Lingering Light, and this one is a mini-boss gauntlet. So we're going to bring Wingrave because his healing gives him a little bit of sustain. He's nice and tanky. Sword and Shields, you won't have that thing that I was just holding. You'll definitely have Vanguard, and you may have Radiant Dawn by this point. If you start with Wingrave, I believe you start with Radiant Dawn. I am going to equip Radiant Dawn because Radiant Dawn particularly has a buff that makes you use less stamina while blocking, which is very handy when you're fighting multiple enemies at once, which is the biggest part of the challenge in this particular boss fight. That Archon's Blade buff there. If you don't have that, though, you should be perfectly fine with the Vanguard. If you do have the Tooth and Claw, which you can also get fairly early in the game randomly, it's a very good offensive shield. You throw it Captain America style, and it does huge amounts of break damage and pings between the enemies. Anyways, we're going to dive in here. Okay, there we go. I think I was confused about which fight I was picking there. For some reason, I thought that was on the other side. Yeah, you can use the loading screen time to psych yourself up. So yeah, we're gonna run down these ominous looking stairs to this spooky bridge. There's usually a checkpoint closer to the boss, and when you start, make sure to trigger that one just in case something does go terribly wrong and you die. You have a shorter run back. It's just a time saver. Also, it will let people joining you teleport forwards to get to you faster. So when you go in here, you're going to go poke this little orb to start a simulation. First off, you're going to fight a bunch of these little trash monks. Again, you can block their area of effect things or just dodge out of them, either one. These guys are basic enemies that you will have fought many, many times by this point in the dungeons, in all likelihood. If you do get damaged, just use Wingrave's Radiant Blade or his Judgment ability. The first one will generate healing pulses per enemy hit, so use it on groups, and the second one taunts them all and makes them take more damage, but you also gain health by hitting them. Again, yeah, you can see I use the Radiant Dawn buff there, so my blocking takes less stamina because I need to block like 4 attacks at once. Clean those guys out, they are not the big problem. Even this guy, he's another regular enemy by this point. Now, the order of these mini bosses is random, so there's no trick to getting the right ones. The wizard guy, I usually let him be because he's mostly just going to shoot those little things at you at range, and we can actually just use them to get a free guard counter. The bear is more dangerous. It can do a lot of damage to your resilience very quickly, and every time it attacks, there's 2 to 3 circles that spawn shortly after. Again, though, just pay attention. Try not to stand in too many circles. Use your judgment ability so that you get healed by attacking. If they go close to each other like that, use your radiant sword to swipe both of them for more healing. That's Wingrave's ultimate, which lets us just stand there and finish off the bear. This bird is the most annoying of all of them because he just dashes around the room and shoots off projectiles every time he hits the end of his dash. So try and focus him down fast. Whatever order they come in, always try and take out the bird first because he's going to be annoying and catch you from behind otherwise. Again, blocking that guy gives us a free card counter attack and charges our Radiant Dawn. So we have, again, reduced stamina. This guy who just spawned in, he's mostly just a beefier version of the monk, but when he does this big pulsing thing where he's holding the ground, he's actually healing himself, so try and burst him down if you can. As far as I can tell, he doesn't heal the other guys, but it'll take forever to kill him, and he'll interrupt you if you're trying to fight other people. He's a very good target if you've got a partner with a gun for them to go after. This guy is basically completely screwed now. He's one-on-one with us, and he ain't got nothing. We just guard broke him, and he's about to get rocked. And that's the Trial of Lingering Light. No special boss echo from those ones, but all 4 or 5 or 6 of those enemies do drop their own echoes. Some of them are going to be good for different builds, and they are unique echoes. They were Truth and Dirty and Loyalty and whatever their other names were. And we picked up a Tempest. That's very nice. That's the only shotgun in the game. It's a very nice, if you want to be a little more upfront with your guns than other people. Anyways, we'll see you at the next boss. Alright, so for the Argent Hand, we're actually going to bring in Silo, because the Argent Hand is mostly melee based, so you can kind of cheese him, essentially. We're going to equip that Fresh Tempest we just picked up instead of my super loaded up with Echoes overpowered one, just to take us down a few notches, keep it interesting. And we'll select the Argent Hand and enter the Gloom. Again, Silo's not required for this. A lot of the same tricks and kind of tips. I basically was juggling between the weapons to show them all off because a lot of the same baseline strategies apply. Just remember, if you are using a gun, you can't block. You have to dodge or eat the damage. I don't recommend eating the damage if you can avoid it. We got a little run up here. You can see, as per usual, these guys have a little cutscene. Where they do their little synchronized dance routine. I'm told this might be a reference to Ginyu Force or something, but I don't. I know just enough anime to know what a Ginyu Force is, we'll say. But yeah, Silo can drop his clone. That'll immediately cause the dudes to attack the clone and ignore him. You can throw his firebomb and oil bomb on them then too. These are not terribly upgraded versions of the regular monks, so you can just blast away at them. Watch out for them shooting that little forward laser beam. During this little phase, the more of them you can kill, the weaker the boss will be. So just try and focus fire them down. Silo doesn't really have big multi-people attacks that maybe Kairos or a Nyx could pull off here, but you can still get some work done. And you saw he started with his health modestly lower. I think you can burn him down to like half if you get all of them. Basically, just plink away at him. Watch out, because he will attack the clone, but every time he punches, he also throws down this little homing circle that will home in on you and spawn underneath you, even if he's attacking a clone of you. Watch out for this one. It's a big damage floor. You do not want to get caught in those. I'm not the biggest fan of that in this arena, because the red kind of blends in with the color of the floor. Now, you see he summoned a monk there. We're ignoring that monk and we're just burning him down. Basically, that monk is charging up a big room-ending explosion. We're going to try and face tank it. You can also use your ultimate to generate iframes to let you get through that explosion without taking any damage at all, or just drink a potion after. If you go over and kill that monk, smaller monk, to stop him, it will stop him and let you continue to DPS the boss. But the next time he summons, there'll be 3 monks, and the next time there will be all 5, and it gets increasingly hard to take them all out. I find it better to just tank the smaller damage from the one guy doing the explosion and just focus on burning down the boss. That's just my personal strategy for this, but that's by far the more effective one I found than stopping everything to try and DPS down all 5 monks. If you have a team, you might get more mileage out doing it the other way. Anyways, this guy does drop a very good echo. Anytime you use a weapon ability, whether of any kind, it will drop this magical grenade on a nearby enemy. It's very good for casters because their weapon abilities might not be totally effective by themselves, but the grenade will drop and deal a whole pile of ability power-based damage. And you'll see it whenever my Kairos video comes out. I'm still using that one at the end of the game too. And that applies to any weapon ability, where it's the Typhoon, Sunder, throwing daggers, sword and shield, buff casting, the shotgun I've got equipped that shoots all the rounds at once when you get the weapon ability. And that's the Argent Hand. Now we're on to what I would consider one of the more annoying bosses in the game, especially for how early it is, the Archon Commander Creed. Alright, so for Creed, we're going to go back to Wingrave, because tankiness is very good, because this guy has a very bad habit of stalling his boss fight, and you'll see what I mean when we get in there. Which means I like to have a lot of sustain and endurance to deal with him. It's possible if you get a very strong build with one of the more DPS characters that you can just blast through him a little better. Particularly a gun might help you out in this one, but you'll see. I'll explain what the issue I have with this fight is when we get in there, because you'll see it happen a couple of times. Again, we run up to the boss. He didn't have a little second checkpoint, so don't worry about that. He is going to play a little cutscene when you go in. You can skip that by holding whatever your /cancel button is. Notice he looks a lot like Wingrave. It's almost like a mirror match. He's not Wingrave, though. They're just part of the same order. Immediately, he will throw that thing at you, so either get out of the way or block it, one of the two. If you can, you don't really want to try and block the energy wave type attacks, including the third hit of that 3 combo he does. Try and dodge those instead, but I'm just kind of bowling through it at this point. Same thing with the guard counters. If an enemy is doing a combo, you have to either hold the shield through the whole combo if you're doing a shield. If you're doing daggers, you have to push parry on every hit of it and then do your counterattacks. If you counterattack in the middle of their combo, they will still do the rest of the combo and will deal out damage to you. If you manage to guard break them, it may or may not. So you saw he did a little thing there. Now he's summoning 2 little ghost guys who are going to cut off part of the room from us. Again, don't stand on the red floors when that happens. They're being very generous, and they're kind of sitting in the other half of the room right now. They haven't spawned on top of us or anything crazy like that. The one problem with Sword and Shield with this guy is blocking does drain your stamina, which also impedes your ability to sprint or dodge when you need to get away from half the floor being red. That's where a dagger parrying or even just a gun to keep more reliably at distance might help you. So yeah, there we're into the red floor. We managed to roll off at that time. When you see unstoppable, it's because you broke their guard break, and they get a brief window when they recover where you can't break their guard. Again, when he does that, he's going to leap. You can try and counter or block that, or just stand out of the way and then follow up on him. There, I finally rolled out of the way of that third hit of his combo that shoots the little laser. That forward shield doesn't really do anything to stop, that won't stop his particular projectiles, but now you can see he's in the middle of the room, so he's summoning more guys at once. He also does a little explosion there, so you don't necessarily want to stand too close to him. Now, this is where it starts getting aggravating, because 75% or more of the room is constantly turning red, as well as trying to deal with his attacks. I think you'll see even I get caught out a couple of times where I can't get off the red. And this gets like triple annoying if you've got one of those mutators that turns floor into lava or floor into poison and things like that. This fight can actually become unwinnable with those, which is something that's been mentioned to the devs on their feedback system in Discord by many, many people. Again, we're just trying to stay alive in this one while the spam level increases while trying to continue doing damage to him. Yeah, again, I didn't have enough stamina to do a double roll there. And this, as far as I've ever been able to tell, the pattern is completely RNG. See, that time we didn't have to move at all. I know there's at least one time in this fight where I guard break him and like I should be able to finish him off then, but the guys just spawn and completely protect him. It might be coming up here any second now. One handy thing is, as far as I can tell, outside of bugs, they don't show up and cover him during his rage mode. They will never block him off completely. There he is, guard broken, but they chased me away, so I couldn't take advantage of it. Again, this is one of the earliest fights, and even by the end game, still one of the fights that really has this level of mechanics and really benefits from having, a DPS and a tank combined. Or a healer and a DPS, whatever you want to take. Anyways, any second now, we're going to whittle him down. It's around 10% of his hit points, and then he's going to go into a rage mode. There he goes. Now from here, he's just going to continuously send out waves that will damage you, and you can't do anything about it. So I've thrown down Winggrave's ultimate to keep us alive here while I beat the crap out of him. Basically, at this point, you have to burst him down as fast as possible. Unless a bug is occurring, though, his little buddies should disappear during that phase. So I've had that happen, though, where his buddies stuck around and they kept hitting the center of the room, so I couldn't actually attack him. And the mutators, of course, can do that as well. Beat him and you'll get his Echo. His Echo works with melee weapons, but I find it best on ranged weapons, because on melee finishers, which take 4 or 5 hits to trigger, or eagle eye shots, which are much easier to trigger, you create this explosion, basically. One thing to note is that it is physical damage that scales off weapon power, so if you're not running weapon power, it's going to be drastically reduced for you. And that's Commander Creed all up and done. So yeah, that's the first 4 bosses of Wayfinder. If you have found this guide helpful, leave a like, drop a comment if you have any other questions. Check out the description below. There will probably be links to other Wayfinder content down there, along with other ways to watch and support our channel as well. And we will hopefully see y'all in the next episode or guide, whatever the case may be, or in the game. It's in the link tree. You can actually go find the Discord and come play, hop in and play and ask questions a little more live as well too. So yep, thanks again for watching, and we will see you in the next one.